algae biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Tree Guard Paint, and this is now a continuation off of our Plumeria plants, and it's just a follow-up. The last time we actually did our video on the Plumeria was exactly 60 days ago, and I'll give you the link down below where we went over a variety of topics, including repotting Plumerias, and we dealt with root rot, and we dealt with potting mixes and a variety of things, including cuttings, which these two are actually the cuttings of our plants that we did just 2 months ago, and I kind of want to show you what they've become, and we're actually going to graduate one of these into a pot before the end of this video. So hang tight and you're going to get to see that as well. But first I want to recap a couple of things that I have around me. The first one I want to show you is this Plumeria plant over here to my right, and if you take a look, it's actually coming close to bloom. If you actually zoom in over here, we're going to pretty soon get to enjoy to see what the color is. There's 3 varieties that we've got growing here in our garden. All of them, you know, from different sources. I either selected them based on smell or color, and I don't remember exactly what this variety is. But if you come and take a look a little lower, you'll actually see the graft. This here was actually grafted to actually create more of a dwarf to semi-dwarf plant, and you can see that it was a V-shaped graft that was on this rootstock over here, and then this here is the selected Plumeria based for its color and characteristics that will ultimately we're going to get to enjoy in just a few more weeks. You'll notice around the plant is this weed. Most people actually you know, consider it a weed and remove them from their garden, but I want to share the health benefits of this plant, which is called PURSLANE, and this is actually you know, a few of the health benefits I just want to share with you quickly as they relate to PURSLANE. And I grabbed this, I'm going to give the credit to organicfacts.net. And what they shared with this plant is they said it's an important plant for helping you lose weight, for boosting your heart health, for proper development of children, treat certain gastrointestinal diseases, prevent certain cancers, protection against your skin, boost your vision, strengthen the immune system, build strong bones, and increase circulation. And the best way of using this plant is if you ever make like an avocado tomato salad or any type of salad in general, all you'll simply do is take a piece of this plant like so, and you'll simply take the leaves off like so, and you can actually just put the leaves into your salad and just scatter that throughout. Your children will never know they're eating it, but these leaves are packed with antioxidants and so many health benefits that you'll get to enjoy. So this is PURSLANE. When you see this weed in your garden, it grows almost everywhere that I visited from coast to coast. I've lived in Florida, I've seen it growing in Florida. I visited New Jersey, I've seen it growing in New Jersey, and here we are in Southern California, and it's thriving everywhere that I visited. So if you see this in your garden, embrace it, hold on to it, and use it. Don't pull it, don't throw it away as a weed. It's a huge plus to have in your garden. So we're actually keeping this weed growing around the pot and enjoying the health benefits with our family. What I want to share with you now is, let's take a look at these cuttings. These cuttings actually came off of plants that were near death. I'm going to again put that link down below where these were root rotted plants. They had too much moss growing around it. We actually planted this in our last video 2 months ago, where we actually put it into the pot, and we only had about, of the entire 1 gallon pot that it was in, about 80% of it was just soil that was leaning against the stem. And what we did is we actually raised it to the root level, and we're going to do the same thing with these cuttings. I'm assuming that we're going to see roots near the bottom, and that the rest of it is actually just being covered with soil. And you don't want that soil holding on to the tree trunk, as it'll cause the tree trunk to rot. And that's an important consideration when potting your plants. And we're going to do one example here today. And then take a look at the blossoms, how beautiful these are. I believe this is called the Pacific Pearl Plumeria flower. And they're also very fragrant. And again, they're most fragrant in the evening, as it attracts a particular moth that only comes out at night. And that's the reason its scent is more potent in the evening than it is in the morning and afternoons. So, and we're going to talk about fertilization as well towards the end of this video. The first thing I want to do is share these cuttings, and let's take a look at what they've actually turned out to be. The first one I want to share with you is this one here, as it's grown the most. So the first one I want to share with you is this plant over here. We're going to pull it out of its container. What I've done is I've actually taken one plastic cup, I've notched holes all around it, and then I would actually fill this cup up with about a quarter inch to a half an inch of water towards the bottom, and when I place this cup within it, it would actually wick the water up. And I would only repeat that process once a week or every other week. And these plants, just like succulents, require very little water to thrive. If there's, again, too much water, it contributes to root rot. But let's take a look and see how this plant is rooted. Take a look over here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this plant out of its container. We're just going to press it along the sides, pull it out. You can actually see the root ball over here. And I'm now going to see this soil all is going to break apart. And you can see again that the roots are just at the very bottom. I would typically not disturb it this much, but I want to share with the viewers what this is actually, where the roots are actually coming out. So I'm just going to rinse this off so you can actually see where the roots are coming. Here we are. So you can actually notice that we actually cut the stem at an angle. See the roots, how they're coming out from just above the node. Just packed with roots. So this is going to be our root system. The roots were just beginning to coil, but we can actually just pull those straight. And now we're going to go and pot those. I'm just going to set this here in the water solution. And I'm now going to prepare the potting mix for this plant. To prepare the potting soil, there's a variety of choices. We've got here Vermiculite, and Vermiculite, as it reads over here, improves moisture and nutrient retention in potting mixes and garden soils. It also aids in faster seed germination and prevents soil compaction and increases aeration. All important considerations when making your potting soil, and this is what it looks like if you take a look over here. So this is Vermiculite. The source as well, just to let you know, is this comes from a nutrient, from an element that's just overheated, and that's how it gains its characteristics. But you can see it's OMRI listed for organic use. So both of these products, here's Vermiculite and the other one being Perlite. And here we go, Perlite improves again drainage and aeration, helps prevent soil compaction, promotes strong roots developments, excellent for starting cuttings as we did over here. And you can notice actually in our soil mixture, you'll actually see that all of these things exist. There's a Vermiculite in there, there's Perlite, which are the white, and then we also added some of the sphagnum peat moss as well, which we're going to get to in just a minute. And this here is the Perlite. So you can see it looks white like snow. Again, both Vermiculite and Perlite absorb water, but the Perlite, this product actually repels water as well, and helps with the drainage and allows the water to pass through a little faster. And then the last is the moss. And this here is sphagnum peat moss. And again, it comes from the bogs, and you can see that it's just plant matter. And what this does is it helps absorb water. It absorbs anywhere from 5 to 20% of its weight. They're cell walls that actually absorb the water and help retain the nutrients in the water around the plant's roots and help with and aids in actually feeding the plant as the plant grows, and it also decays to continue feeding the plant over time. This product actually breaks down in the course of anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So keep in mind that in about 2 to 3 years from now, we're going to have to enrich the potting soil with more nutrients. But we're going to be doing that as well before the end of this video. So these are 3 products, and I'll actually give you a video link where we actually prepared a soil potting mix for a citrus plant just about a week ago. And what we did is put 1/3 of each of these products. But when it comes to, so 1/3 Perlite, 1/3 peat moss, 1/3 Vermiculite. But in this video, just to change things up, what we're going to do is we're going to use a potting mix. In here I've picked up a potting mix, and it says organic and naturally made potting mix, and we're going to use this. And if we take a look in here, you'll see that it's got the Perlite in there, it's got some sphagnum moss, and it's got some other compost materials in there as well. But we're going to use this as our potting mix, but there's still going to be some tips that I'm going to share with you. The first being, we've got our pot, and with the pot you'll notice at the very bottom that there's this hole. You want to make sure that it has at least one drain hole, and if it doesn't, you're going to want to add some more to the bottom of your pot. But the drain hole is critical to make sure that the water gets out of the pot quickly after watering so that the roots don't drown and get smothered underneath too much water. The roots, just like the rest of the plant, need to breathe, and so it's important that once you water the plant that the water gets out of there so that there's oxygen enriching the plant from the root system up. So aeration is important with the roots, and what we're going to do to facilitate that, the first thing is we're going to add rocks, or we can use, we've got a clay pot over here. We can actually break this down as well into some more pieces, and we can use that. One thing I want to caution you against is do not put wood chips at the bottom. What wood chips do is they actually rob the soil and the potting mix from the nutrients, especially nitrogen, and it also can lead to anaerobic respiration, which is where the soil begins to rot from the organic matter that's at the bottom of the pot. So we're using something like a clay pot to basically help with the aeration of the soil. And I'm actually going to put both the rocks and the broken pot at the bottom. But the goal is to use something that's not going to break down and not going to decay at the base of the pot. So we're going to put all of that in there. The next step is to put the potting soil. But to help make sure that the potting soil is well aerated is we're going to take our potting soil and we're going to add to it some more perlite and some more potting soil. And this mixture is going to be used for both the bottom couple of inches as well as the top couple of inches. And what that's going to offer the plant is additional aeration. It's going to help get the water away from the base of the plant. It's going to help get the water away from the top and the trunk of the plant. And you're going to see how we're going to do that. So the first thing we're going to do here, if you can take a look here in the pot, we're going to add now a couple of inches of soil. We're then going to add a couple more inches of potting soil on top of that. And then now we can get our plant, and we're going to position that in here. But now we got to be careful. I'm actually going to raise the plant a little bit higher. So we'll get a little more potting soil here. Take some of that out. Position the plant in there. And then now cover it with the more perlite. It's generally supposed to be two handfuls of perlite for every 1 handful or 1/3 of the potting mix. We want that much perlite to be around the plant. And so there that goes. If there's too much moss, peat moss around the plant, it'll actually cause the stem of the plant to also rot. So that's the reason that we added additional perlite in the top inch of the soil, or the top couple of inches of soil. So that's going to take care of that. The next thing I'm going to do is water the plant down. To aid the plant in any transplant shock, as you can see, it went through quite a bit. We've pulled it out of the container, we robbed it of all the soil around it, we've moved it quite a bit so far in handling it. To assist it with the stress of that, what we're going to do is take our watering can and we can add one of two things. This here is Super Thrive, which actually has vitamin B1 in it, which helps with transplant shock, or we can get a product such as this. I think they're both about the same price, and you can see how much you get here. This one here is made by Western States. It's got vitamin B1 plus some minor elements to help with greening. And I'm actually going to use this today. And we just put about a teaspoon or two in there, and we can water the plant accordingly. You'll notice that when we prepare the cutting to actually prevent the plant from desiccation and drying out, we actually coated the entire tree trunk with this Ivory Organics 3-in-1 tree guard paint. If you take a look at it, we used the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 tree guard paint color white. It also is offered in the green as well as brown color. And let me show you the can here as well. So it basically reads, Ivory Organics, it's a 3-in-1 tree guard paint, just add water, a natural tree trunk and branch barrier protection against damaging sunburn and insects and rodents, for use on your roses, fruit and nut trees, ornamental trees and shrubs, and it's a non-toxic, environmentally safe and organic product. And here, this one's actually white, and again, it comes in brown or green as well. What we're gonna do next is we're going to now spray the plant with this Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Tree Guard paint. And what this is gonna offer is an additional shield for the plant to prevent it from actually sunburning in the sun. We just moved it out, and the goal is to keep the plant cool while the roots get established in this new container. So what we're gonna do here is remove the lid. I just prepared it actually before the video. And what we're going to do here is just mix it to make sure all of the oils and the organic paint are thoroughly mixed with one another. You're supposed to stir it every 5 to 10 minutes to make sure that they're integrated. And we're just going to put about a teaspoon or two in the spray bottle. And we can mix that up here. And shake it and apply it. And now take a look very closely at the plant. You'll actually notice that it's got an organic sunblock on the plant. It's got the oils that actually are not going to repel insects while it actually builds its immune system to continue growing. This here will actually give the plant the best chance at actually growing and surviving and not drying out or going through any additional stress in this transplant. So this here actually concludes the potting part. But now the next thing I want to talk about is fertilizers and selecting the right fertilizer for taking care of your plants. Let's take a look over here. So now we got to decide what is the best fertilizer for my Plumeria plant. There's a whole bunch to choose from, and there's even more when you go to your garden center. But the goal is to pick, and you are the scientist to decide what is the best for your plant. Just like you're caring for your pet and you're picking the best pet food, you're taking them to the best vet. You're trying to do the best you can, and you're the ultimate decision maker, and you got to figure out what's going to be best for your plant. And what I've got here in front of me is I've got a organic liquid fertilizer, I've got a chemical fertilizer, I've got a couple more spike organic fertilizers, and then I've got this one over here, another organic fertilizer and another liquid feed fertilizer. And let me show you the differences real quick. So this first one I have here is Organic Plus, made by Kellogg's, and when we take a look at the back of it, this is an organic fertilizer with a balanced nitrogen 2%, phosphorus 2%, and phosphorus 2%. The nitrogen helps with the growth, the phosphorus helps with the flowering, and the potassium helps with disease resistance and root health. So by having a balanced fertilizer, we're going to get an equal amount of all results happening: the growth, the flowering, and the disease resistance. If we use another product, here's another organic option, and this one here is made by Espoma Organic Garden Tone, and this one here has percentages 3, 4, 4. 3% towards nitrogen, 4% for phosphorus, and 4% potassium. By having a higher phosphorus level than the nitrogen, the goal is to actually encourage more flowering and more fruiting, which is what we want actually with our Plumeria. So this could be an option. The advantage of actually using a granular feed such as this is that it'll offer food for your plant for up to 3 months, whereas a liquid fertilizer such as this may need to be repeated every week and no less than once a month. Another product here, fish fertilizer. The percentages: 5% nitrogen, 1% phosphorus, and 1% potassium. A product like this would be ideal for my new planting, the goal being we want it to grow. High nitrogen content, don't worry about the flowering at this time, so a lower phosphorus content. So a fish fertilizer could be the right fertilizer for your plant if the goal is growth, which it could be for our newly installed Plumeria plant. Now I'm going to show you this one. This one here is made by Grow More. It actually is a 5-50-17. 5% nitrogen, 50%, which is one of the highest percentages I've ever seen in a fertilizer for phosphorus, 17% potassium. So the 50% phosphorus is going to encourage major blooms. As it says Hawaiian bud and bloom, but this is a chemically derived chemical. Take a look at this. It's glowing blue. So a chemical source. If you put this on your food is going to be derived from chemical sources, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So if you put a product such as this in your food, then you're putting the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that's coming from a chemical source. And now these chemical sources are going into your tomatoes, or going into your lemons, and going into your oranges, or growing into whatever it is that you're growing in your garden. But this may be less important that you're using a chemical fertilizer when it's going into maybe your flowers, or you're not going to be consuming. But still, it's important to be using organic even on your non-edible plants. So when you're using a chemical fertilizer such as this, you're actually not affecting just the plant, but you're also affecting the soil biology. And it's the soil biology that's ultimately giving you the best plant and the best results, and not a chemically driven result. Additionally, using a chemical requires you to also do more care. Being that it's a chemical, the feed is going to be anywhere from once a week to once a month, and it needs to be continuously repeated, as every time you water, you're washing these chemicals away. An organic fertilizer, on the other hand, will continue to stay there in the soil, enrich the soil microbiology, and which will continue to feed the soil and provide for a healthier plant. And take a look at this. I'm actually going to show this one first. This one here is made by Jobs, another organic all-purpose fertilizer. If we take a look at the percentages, it's fairly balanced. 4-4-4, 4% nitrogen, 4% phosphorus, 4% potassium. So if you're looking for an equal balanced fertilizer, this could be a good choice. But this is what we're going to use actually today for this one particular plant behind me. This here also made by Jobs Organics. It's a vegetable and tomato food. But take a look at this percentages right here. 2-7-4, 2% nitrogen, 7% phosphorus, 4% potassium. The focus is all on flower and fruit development. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take this fertilizer and enrich this plant over here. And take a look. We've actually got these blooms, and a lot of energy is now going into phosphorus, or the phosphorus is actually being taken out of the soil and going into the flower development. And the goal is to encourage this part of the plant to also continue doing the same thing, as this hasn't gone into bloom yet. So to encourage it to actually go into bloom, what we're going to do is take the Jobs, 2%, 7% phosphorus, 4% potassium, which has a high phosphorus content, and we're just going to put that around the base of the plant. What you're going to want to do to increase the effectiveness of the product is you're going to want to mix it into the top quarter inch of the soil, and that'll allow the soil microbes. If you come in a little bit closer, you can see the fertilizers right here. By mixing it into the top quarter inch, the soil microbes are going to come into contact with it and start consuming it, and every time you water, it's going to enrich the entire root ball of the plant. So I hope you've enjoyed this video on Plumerias. If so, be sure to like it, and most importantly, subscribe down below. By subscribing below, you'll be connected to all the other Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Tree Guard Paint videos with gardening tips made simple for you to understand. Thanks again for watching, and happy gardening.